Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I was online and I came across quite a few articles that basically acknowledged what many of us have been saying for a long time, and that's that the war on drugs is nothing but a war on black people. This article says that Nixon Aide reportedly admitted drug war was meant to target black people. This Nixon aide, his name is John Ehrlichman. He was Nixon's chief domestic advisor when President Nixon, announced the war on drugs in 1971. John Ehrlichman also played a role in the Watergate scandal, and for that reason, he was in federal prison for 18 months. But I'm going to read this quote for you, and then I'm going to provide further commentary. He said, "You want to know what this was really all about?" He asked with the bluntness of a man who, after public disgrace and a stretch in federal prison, had little left to protect. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies: the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So there you have a quote from a top official in the Nixon administration, basically admitting that the war on drugs was nothing but a war on black people. It was used as an excuse to target black people and to target the left as well. And the same is happening today. They have criminalized our communities with this so-called war on drugs, which again is nothing but a war on black people. It's no accident that our communities are flooded with drugs. It's no accident that our communities are flooded with guns. It's like what Malcolm X said about alcohol. They put the drugs in our community and then they arrest us for using and selling the drugs. It's all a part of a conspiracy to oppress black people. And in order to really get a full context to what we're talking about, it's important to understand the counterintelligence program that had been going on since the days of Marcus Garvey. And even today, black leaders and black organizations are still monitored by the federal government, still monitored and targeted by the federal government. Groups like Black Lives Matter have been targeted by the FBI for destruction and for monitoring. So the counterintelligence program said that one of the goals of that program was to prevent the rise of a black messiah. Another goal was to prevent the rise of a black nationalist movement among the youth. What better way to prevent those things than by criminalizing an entire community through a so-called war on drugs? What better way to do that? Criminalize the entire community. They use this war on drugs to destroy black organizations and black people. Our communities were flooded with drugs. There was a time in the 60s when young people were politically engaged. They were part of political organizations for the liberation of black people. Many gangs at the time became politicized, and they began to identify with the black liberation movement and with other movements at the time. They became vehicles for change, many of these gangs, and they merged with organizations like the Black Panther Party. And with the influx of drugs, it destroyed the incentive for revolution. It destroyed the incentive for organization. When people have the illusion of opportunity, they are quick to abandon any kind of aspirations for liberation. When they're given the illusion that they can make it in this white man's world, they abandon the struggle. When they're told that you can sell drugs and make all this money, they're no longer engaged in any kind of struggle. They have no incentive to become a part of the movement. In fact, they have an incentive to go against the movement. They have an incentive to destroy their own people through this drug trade. So they give them drugs, they sell it, they become relatively financially stable by peddling death to their own people. So not only is the movement suppressed, the people are suppressed with money and drugs. With money and drugs, the black minds that could have been thinking and plotting about how to get free, how to liberate themselves and their people, those minds were intoxicated with drugs. And those who weren't intoxicated with drugs were intoxicated with money. And they abandoned all sense of principles and they completely sold out. And while they were thinking that they were getting ahead by selling drugs and making money, they were actually destroying their community and destroying themselves. So again, they flooded the community with drugs and then they criminalized drugs and they targeted black communities for law enforcement. Even though there's no proof that black people use or sell drugs more than anybody else, they still targeted the black community more than anybody else. And that's documented in Michelle Alexander's masterpiece, The New Jim Crow. So when they target the black man with this war on drugs, many of our young brothers in the prime of their lives end up being locked away in America's prisons, which are nothing but modern day concentration camps, modern day slave camps, modern day slavery. These young black men become the new slaves, as Kanye pointed out in one of his songs, the new slaves, where they are working, manufacturing products for private industry. Private industry is getting enriched by involuntary servitude of our people. More black people are under this criminal justice system than were enslaved during the height of slavery, as again pointed out by Michelle Alexander in her book. So when you have this youthful energy locked away in prison, they don't pose a threat to the system. They don't pose a threat to the establishment. They're not a part of any organizations fighting for black liberation. They are effectively neutralized. And that's exactly what people like Nixon and many other presidents wanted. They wanted to neutralize black youth so they would not be involved in these black liberation movements. The black messiah that they wanted to neutralize could be one of these prisoners already locked away. These potential leaders locked away. these potential builders in the community locked away. And for those who aren't locked away, many of them are dead through the violence associated with this drug trade. And for those who make it through the criminal justice system, they become modern day second class citizens. And it's legal by law, despite all the civil rights progress that our society has made. When someone has a felony on their record in many places or many states in this country, those people lose their rights. They completely lose their right to vote in many jurisdictions. In some jurisdictions, they are allowed to petition to have those rights restored, but in other places, they are not. In other places, the process is difficult. So they are stripped of their right to vote. Just like we were stripped of our right to vote during the Jim Crow era. Just like we were subjected to poll taxes and literacy tests and all those things. So these people are stripped of their voting rights. And not only that, they're stripped of their right to get a job. Because when someone has a felony, they can be discriminated against by businesses. A business can decide, well, I'm not going to hire you because you have a felony. It is legal for them to discriminate against a felon. Many of these felons are nonviolent drug offenders. They can be discriminated against when it comes to housing. Someone can decide, well, I'm not going to rent to this person because they have a record. They can be discriminated against when it comes to financial aid. So they can't even advance in life. They're denied the opportunity to get employment. They're denied the opportunity to get financial aid. They're denied the opportunity to get decent housing. So what ends up happening? When you can't provide for yourself legally, you end up back in the cycle of crime, back behind bars, or even worse, dead. And at the end of the day, all of these things combined undermine our whole struggle for Black liberation. In his quote, he talked about criminalizing communities, vilifying people, night after night on the evening news. And that's what we see on the evening news. Night after night, we see images of Black men in handcuffs, and that vilifies Black people, that criminalizes Black people, that dehumanizes Black people. And even worse, you have an art form, this music out here, that further vilifies and segregate and stereotypes Black people. Vilifies and stereotypes Black people. Presents us as criminals, as dangerous, as violent, as a menace to society. And when we're painted that way, when we're depicted that way, it's easy to justify locking us up. It's easy to justify the killing of our young people. It's easy to justify. So when you have a Trayvon Martin, when you have a Michael Brown, when you have a Sam DuBose, when you have these people killed by the police, because our minds have already been poisoned with this programming that teaches us that the Black man is a menace, we accept the death of these young people. And when I say we, I'm talking about the larger American society. We accept it. It's no big deal for a Black life to be taken, because we've been programmed to dehumanize Black people, to devalue Black life. And that's why it's so important that you have a Black Lives Matter movement. But people have been so thoroughly programmed that when black people say that our lives matter, it becomes a controversy. When we say what should be obvious to any decent human being, it becomes a big deal. But again, I just wanted to share these thoughts with you, and I welcome your comments and your feedback. Peace.